Hello, and thank you for joining me. Oysters. You either love them or hate them. And if you clicked on this, then I think I know how you feel. Oysters tend to be associated with fancy restaurants and glasses of champagne, but for this video we traveled out into the wild to collect our very own oysters. And it is certainly not a black tie event. We were getting down and dirty. I live in Copenhagen, but in this video I was traveling with my in-laws to the west of Denmark and enjoying the beaches on the North Sea. With all the ancient Viking mounds you go by, you can really feel the history of this place. For many generations throughout the olden days, the oysters and other sea life in these waters kept the locals well fed. Now, oyster hunting is just good weekend fun. The process is simple. Once the tide goes out, you shuffle out through the sand and shallows to grab what you can carry. With the tide out, we got our boots on and headed out into the exposed inlet with the others. Oysters live clustered together in something called an oyster bed. They can be really massive, and out in the shallow water, we were essentially standing on a giant pile of them. It was a pretty crazy experience for me. As a chef, I think of oysters as a pricey luxury ingredient, yet here they were, literally underneath my feet. On this excursion, you were allowed to go wild. It was essentially an all-you-can-eat buffet, but eating them just took a little bit of work. And because the water was so shallow, you couldn't really rinse off the oysters, so we ended up eating a lot of sand and silt that day. But I came with my own mignonette, so I just pretended any sort of grit was just some black pepper. We brought along buckets so that we could also bring a load back to the shore. Once there, we all chipped in shucking oysters so the leaders of the expedition could prepare the oysters for the group in different ways. They fired up a grill, and that allowed for many possibilities. We had some simply heated up in their own juices, others had breadcrumbs and cheese, and some were cooked with a lime-infused butter that I really enjoyed. At one point, we were sent back to the shallow water to collect some seaweed. Then, a small fire was started, and the seaweed was used to help smoke some of the oysters. This pile of wood, kelp, oysters, and smoke had a great look to it, something between a kids' science display and a seafood tower at an avant-garde restaurant. Along with all these oysters, we also, of course, had some carbonated beverages. And because this is Denmark, they couldn't have the grill going without throwing on some hot dogs. Gotta have your turf with all that surf. A balanced meal. One bit of advice if you are new to shucking oysters, in this video you see me just holding the oyster freely and shucking it in my hands. It is possible to shuck them this way, but when I'm at home or at work, I much prefer to grip the oyster with a kitchen towel, hold it on a flat, sturdy surface, and then set about opening it. This greatly reduces the risk of having an accident while shucking. Safety first! But there you have it. This is what getting oysters from the wild looks like. And before I go, let me show you how to make that mignonette sauce. For me, it's my favorite garnish for raw oysters, and it's really simple. Just get yourself a small shallot. I will only need about half of this. Once peeled and split lengthwise, I just dice it up as finely as possible. Measurements are not very critical here, but this is probably a good 2 tablespoons or so. We just get that into a little bowl, and then we need some acid. The classic choice would probably be red or white wine vinegar, but today I'm doing a mix of apple cider and rice wine vinegar. Total volume around a half a cup or so. Then in with a good pinch of salt, a little tiny pinch of sugar, and a good grind of black pepper, to the tune of about a half a teaspoon or so. Again, measurements here are not life or death. Just mix it, taste it, and see how you like it. And not only are measurements not that important, but variation is very much welcome. Consider adding the zest of some lemon or lime, or maybe finely dice just a little bit of fresh tart apple. Have fun with it. The world is your oyster. Thank you for joining me for this brief look at collecting oysters in their natural habitat. I hope you enjoyed seeing me get down in the nitty-gritty for the sake of your enjoyment. If you did in fact like this video, then do me a favor and click the like button and subscribe while you're at it. I've got a lot of nice videos and more to come focusing on wild food. Count on a video featuring venison in the future. And make sure to comment if you have anything at all to say. Positive and negative feedback is welcome, as is just saying hello from wherever you find yourself in the world. Until next time, cheers!